Is electric motorcycles the way forward? Are they accessible enough to be what the future holds for motorcycling? And are they any fun? We've ridden out here to Bury St Edmunds or nearby to test out the Zero DSR and the Zero SR. It's been a fantastic day. Done quite a lot of riding. I think it's about 100 miles or so in just a short few hours. Stopped off at GridServe out in Braintree, charged up the bikes, found out a lot about these, and they're fantastic machines. But let's get into the video, talk about them, what makes them good, what makes them bad, or I guess the positives and negatives, pardon the pun, and talk about how good these are and if they're going to be a commuter option or just the way forward. So we've ridden out here to Bury St Edmunds, as I say, to sample the Zero DSR you can see on the right and the Zero SR as you can see on your left. I really wanted to come out here. I've ridden electric bikes before, but this time around I wanted to just see, are they accessible enough to be used as a commuter bike? Are they fun enough to ride? And will they replace combustion engine motorcycles entirely? I mean, are they going to be enough for the average rider to jump on and think, actually, yeah, I really enjoyed that, I'm going to buy one? We've ridden out here, went to GridServe, charged them up, and one of the first things that I found was that these bikes, you have to adjust your riding style. So it's not necessarily how you ride, but it's your expectations of how you ride. That means that when you jump onto one of these, I'd imagine you've charged it at home, it's got a full charge, and you plug it in, unplug it, and you're away. Got around about 160 miles roughly of range, but it very much depends how you ride this. And also it depends, you've got to plan your stops. Of course, at the moment in the country, you've got a few places where you can charge up, supermarkets, you've got the GridServes of the UK, and that means you can turn up, plug the bike in, maybe stop for about half an hour, let the bike charge up just enough to get to where you want to be, and then head on your way. The thing that I really found interesting about these is that Zero said you don't really want to charge to 100% all the time. Not for any battery reasons, but purely because you want to get back out on the road and enjoy them. And that really is something that I enjoyed with these bikes. You've got no clutch, of course, they're belt driven, and the power is just phenomenal. You can jump on a bike and just go into corners, you can jump into the country roads and just have a lot of fun. Doesn't matter what gear you're in, because there is no gears. The belt drive is so smooth, and the modulation of the power is smooth as well. Of course, you've got rider modes that you can play with. You've got Eco, you've got Canyon, which is a bit of a custom mode. You've got a sporty mode, and then just like your standard mode. So there's quite a lot of bits to pick from there. And these bikes both handle supremely well. The weight is nice and low down because the battery is held at the bottom. And when you're on the bike, it just feels stable and fluid. Any tiny inputs you put into the bike, you really get that response. And as I say, if you go into a corner too hot, you can slow down enough with the superb J1 brakes at the front and rear, and then just carry your speed nicely through. If you go a little bit too slow into a corner, you can even just touch a little bit of power into the corner to speed yourself up. It's just really responsive, and I really enjoyed that about both the DSR and the SR.
So, as a quick rundown of the Zero DSR. This is the big touring adventure styled machine with sleek style, and it ranges from an A1 to a full A license variety. And this DSR is in the middle, designated for A2 friendly riding. And that's right, there is an A1 or 125cc equivalent of this DSR, which is wild. Anyway, with large dimensions and true battleship on the road feeling, the DSR is a real consideration for someone who wants an electric dual sport bike with top spec components and an equally top price. It starts at £17,000. But what do you get for your money? Now this is a weighty boy, it's 242 kilograms at the curb, but the 47mm Showa forks, which are adjustable for preload, compression, rebound damping, is paired with a 46mm rear shock with piggyback reservoir and does a top job of keeping the bike compliant on the road, particularly in the corners where it feels like it's on rails. And of course the 19-inch front and 17-inch rear wheels are trod with Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tyres, which no doubt help a huge deal. And moving to what you no doubt want to know more about is the charging and the range. Of course, you can see that we've gone to GridServe and we had the explanation and the demonstration of the charging. On board you have the Z-Force 15.6 lithium-ion battery with a max capacity of 15.6 kilowatts. It has a charge time of 4.4 hours to 100% or 3.9 hours to 95%. And it's good for around 100 miles of high speed riding to 155 miles in the city, or like a combined. It is worth considering the 6 kilowatt rapid charger accessory to unlock the potential for a 1.9 hour charge to 100% or a 1.4 hour to 95%. Of course, if not, you can plug it into your wall and it will be an overnight charge. Naturally, as you know, electric torque is instant and direct. This one has 170 Newton meters peak torque on hand and 70 brake horsepower at its peak. It accelerates smoothly, and as there are no gears, you can really focus on your body positioning and your style without worrying about getting in the correct gear for an upcoming corner. At any speed in the corner, you can then twist the throttle and you get instant torque to continue on. It really is fun, and there's even a manually adjustable screen that you can move up or down with one hand, though it did seem like the wind wanted to push that down over time when I was riding in the country lanes.
The riding position is comfortable for me as a taller rider. I'm 6'3", but the leg position is a little bit cramped for me. So I did have to stand up and stretch my legs a few times just to make sure I was comfy enough.
Now, there's no good without bad, and there are a few limitations here, namely the price and charging, and of course, naturally, the fact that you're going to have to adjust your route and your riding style to suit the bike. And that adjustment of expectations is the difficulty for electric bikes. Our stop at grid serve was only for around 30 to 45 minutes, and it gave us just enough in the tank / battery to get to our destination with around 10% battery remaining. Risking getting any lower into the battery would basically risk the battery forcing a sort of limp mode or a super eco mode that will be a bit slower, and it will prolong what battery life remains, but it's at the cost of your time and speed. And when you get back, you're going to have to then wait even longer for an overnight charge or a few hours at the fast charger. So the DSR is certainly worth it if you're after a top spec electric dual sport bike. Go for it. But you have to have the wallet and you have to adjust your riding to suit the bike. Though with the current battery technology where it is and the price that comes along with that, I'm not quite sure that long distance touring is as easy as a combustion engine. Of course it's not. But it's not going to replace a combustion bike. It's going to add as an additional alternative for your options. That is until the laws change and the situation is forced with just electric bikes. Comment below what your take is. And I will just throw in that Zero motorcycles come with 5 years warranty as standard, with 5 years on the power pack, which is pretty good going.
Moving to a high-level overview of the Zero SR, it's quite a sporty position. It's a naked bike, of course, and when you're on it, it feels quite sporty. You can ride it sensibly, of course, but I felt like on this, you really just want to open the throttle and just let it go because it just really responds nicely.
The Zero SR is a very interesting bike. Again, like the DSR, it's A2 license compliant and absolutely decked out with top spec componentry. It's priced in at an expensive £16,200, but the SR just offers that electric lifestyle that you may want to have, and of course, it's a very well spec'd bike. Now, the first thing to talk about is, of course, going to be the battery pack. It's basically the same as the DSR. So the 15.6 Z-Force lithium-ion battery, it recharges on the base 3.3 kilowatt charge in a quoted 4.4 hours to 100% or 3.9 hours to 95%. And then it's good for around 162 miles of lower speed city riding or 102 miles of higher speed riding. Naturally, we were jumping between different bikes throughout the day, between the DSR and the SR, and swapping them around. So we couldn't really quote on how much range you got per bike because it was always different with different riders on and different riding styles. So I can't quote the exact mileage from the day. It's worth noting that you can opt for a faster 6 kilowatt battery, but that does eat into the little storage space where the fuel tank of a combustion engine bike would be. You'd be left with enough space for a wallet, effectively. The power spec is 70 brake horsepower peak and 38 brake horsepower for the continuous power, and it's got a huge 140 Newton meters of torque put smoothly, yet instantly, to the belt-driven rear wheel. It is just rapid on the road. It feels like a really sporty, naked bike. Now, you have the option to pay £350 for the performance upgrade that unlocks the full Category A power of the SRF. Of course, this applies to the DSR as well. Both variants of bikes have the same battery and motor, it just is a software upgrade, and you do then get the 6 kilowatt fast charger as well. Now, as a taller rider, it was relatively comfortable on the SR throughout the day, though I did get a little bit of leg cramp, though I do have long legs. You have a few rider modes to play about with, of course, on both bikes, and that genuinely does adjust the way the bike rides. It adjusts the battery regeneration and the sort of engine braking feeling, and how the power is put down. You've got different ride modes like canyon mode, eco mode, your sort of street and standard modes, and they do genuinely feel a lot different per mode. Worth noting as well, you can get the Zero app on your phone, and then that allows you to dive even further to customize the rider modes, and you can set your own user mode, so you can put engine brake into a full effectively 100%, for example. With the suspension, you've got Showa 43mm forks with adjustable preload, compression and rebound and damping, and that's joined by a 40mm piggyback reservoir shock, which is also adjustable for preload, compression and rebound damping. On the road, the suspension was great, and the only times that the 223kg curb weight machine was thrown off was particularly harsh country roads with successive divots and adventure scenery. Worth noting, I didn't tweak the suspension. Of course, we were jumping back and forth between different bikes all day, but it was absolutely fine for the most part and handled so nicely in the corners. You can really get to it on this bike, and it's a lot of fun. The 17-inch wheels are trod with Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3 hoops, and you have twin J1 discs up front with a single rear and a Bosch-based MSC and ABS. One thing I will say here is the rear brake was a tad stiff, but you get a good stamp on it, should get working. The guys at Zero told me that it's something to do with the ABS, maybe the traction control, but either way, the SR is certainly worth it if you're looking for a slightly cheaper alternative to the DSR. You want an electric bike, you want it to have top spec componentry, and you're happy to adjust the way that you ride the bike. Ultimately, great fun, but there's a few bits to consider if you are looking to jump onto the electric trend, but certainly worth it if you can.
So ultimately, both of these bikes are fantastic to ride. Now, are they accessible enough to take over from combustion engines? I mean, I've already touched on it. You have to adjust your expectations. You can't buy one of these with the combustion mindset. You've got to adjust where you're going to fill up or charge up. You're going to have to adjust your sort of riding style. You can't just go ham everywhere and go full throttle in sports mode. You might want to go into eco mode, which is just as fun to ride, but just to keep that bit of charge. Build up a bit of regeneration into the battery, and just make sure that when you then get to those twisty parts of the road, you can unleash it and watch the range go down quickly, but you've not just been going nuts everywhere. I found on this one we did do quite a lot of riding today, plugged it in, had a little 30-minute stop and a breather, a bit of bite to eat, back on the road and enjoyed it. So once you've got that into your riding style, then you'll be fine. Of course, the biggest problem, I'd say, really, with these bikes is the price. You do get a premium product, but at the same time, it's quite difficult to just go out and buy one of these. I mean, you're looking at, say, £17,000 and up to get one of these and get it on the road. That does mean that you can, of course, look at a combustion engine bike and think, I could buy 2 Hornets for that price. But at the same time, you've got no recharging costs, really. I mean, you've got a few pounds here and there, and if you plug it in at home, or if you're cheeky and plug it in at work and get it for free, I'd do that. You can just get this on the road and don't worry about refueling, because every time you get back home on the bike, plug it in, you'll have 100% and you'll be ready to go. So will it take over combustion engines? I'm not sure it will take over, but I think it's a nice alternative option. I think it's one that when we eventually get to the stage where electric bikes are the way forward, if that's going to be what happens, they're really fun to ride, and you just have to adjust your expectations a little bit. I mean, we all wish that combustion engines will stay forever, of course I do, but these are a really fun alternative, and I'd say it's worth just giving them a go. If you see like a Zero test ride event, just go down there, have a laugh on one, ride it around with no worry about paying any price. Just turn up, give it a go and see what you think. If you go to Lexham Insurance, the blog there, I'll have a full review of the DSR and the SR, and from there, subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.